Come Dance With Me should have been the theme for this year's September celebrations. This year, the celebrating of Belize's 45 years of independence embodies history wherein Premier Price took us to independence, and for the next 20 years from that point, between 79 and 98, both Prime Ministers Price and Esquivel formed the governments, one in, one out. Now both of them are deceased, as well Honorable Philip Wilson, who was, yin and yang with Price. From 98 to 2008, PM Said Musa was Belize's head of state, and from 2008 to 2020, it was PM Dean Barrow. Both PM Musa and Barrow should get their flowers while they're living. Both of them are attorneys, both foreign ministers, before becoming prime ministers. Both successfully led the charge numerous times, battling Guatemala to the point where the matter is now before the ICJ, shortly to be concluded. And in oral arguments, if this year's September celebration were to be objective, both PM Musa and Barrow would be honored, central to the event. For they played key roles, bringing us to where we are today as a nation. The way the Battle of St. George's Key continues to be celebrated is a disgrace, because instead of using the occasion to educate Belizeans about the milestone, whether it was a skirmish or a battle, achieved, the celebration continues to split right across red and blue lines. It was at the 1798, whether battle of skirmish or whether battle or skirmish, at 1978 or shortly thereafter, that British Honduras, now Belize, became consolidated as a territory with the borders intact as they are described in our 1859 border treaty, and as we know them today. Therefore, that ought to be the crux of the celebration of the 10th, for it is the milestone that was achieved at that time. This territory was consolidated in 3 phases. The first is the Logging Treaty of 1783 between British Honduras and Spain to cut the area bounded north by the Rio Hondo down to the Belize River. The second phase, 3 years later, 1786 annex to the same treaty, expanding the cutting from the Belize River down to the Sibun. And lo and behold, the third and final phase is the big prize, 1798. That which was a signature event, because if what occurred at St. George's Key was only a skirmish, we still consolidated the territory at that point by virtue of Spanish acquiescence, because after that event they never returned. And that's that I'm talking legally. And by the way, the Captaincy General for Spain was through Mexico, not Guatemala. Guatemala never ever had effective control or administration over British Honduras, now Belize. Any such claim of administration could only have come from Mexico, not Guatemala. The 1798 event constituted the third phase of the territory consolidation. and increased the area, now Belize, to where it bounded west at Garwood Falls. Permanent border mark is there, and south at the Saskatoon River. The border is at the mid-channel, the deepest part. Whichever, yeah, therefore, these same border marks from the two logging treaties and the 1798 event, whether a skirmish or battle, constitute the 8,867 square miles that comprise our territory. Once a border is established, according to international law, it cannot be changed. So Belize borders will not change with the impending ICJ ruling whenever it comes, and I'll be shortly. It was said that it ought to be by December of this year. The oral arguments have already begun with the substantive matter. I've never seen or heard the beginning of the, well, like I said, what we saw on television was, the arguing of the substantive matter of whether Guatemala asking to be included in, which is the tripartite maritime case Belize brought up against Honduras for the maritime area and those keys. Of course, it's because, according to the 2008 special agreement, the case can only be filed once, and it has to include all the complete claim. So for insular, which are keys, the territory, land, and the maritime. So Guatemala already filed that claim. But now that Belize sued Honduras, because Honduras, so Honduras can't come back later after the case with Belize Guatemala claim, second Guatemala claim. Guatemala asked to get into the act, so they already filed the case against, and now they're asking to get into the act in the maritime portion of the case, because that substantive matter will be argued within the Belize Guatemala territorial dispute matter, because it's a once and for all. So Guatemala can't come back and say, okay, I filed, or I claimed for half, now I'm coming back to claim for the second half. So the rules are clear in the in the 2008 special agreement, on which the ICJ matter is predicated, and the case will be once and for all. The ruling will be final, and it will go by majority rule. So the majority, not unanimity, the majority rule. And so basically, the president of the ICJ will ask, beginning with the least experienced, the last judge to join the court, for that judge to render an opinion and go around the table that way, and the president will be the last one to render his opinion, and then the secretary of the court will compile those opinions and form the ruling, and it will be just a virtue of the majority. But once a border is established, it cannot be changed. So it's not about changing Belize borders at all. What may, if anything, happen, well, for sure, the ruling will come with the instruction to demarcate the maritime, for that has not occurred. It is tripartite. So we kind of have an idea of what the spaces will be. Our continental shelf includes our territorial waters and the additional 200 nautical miles. And the farther along to sea, the wider the space. That's how it is. thanks to Judge Leng under the Esquivel administration, who helped us formulate our claim. So both Belize need for the upcoming September 10th celebration to not be another national disgrace. I mean, dividing our children and grandchildren along red and blue party lines, not telling them that the significance of the 1798 event, would be sad, that it consolidated our territory with the borders as described today in the 1859 border treaty between British Honduras, now Belize, and Guatemala, consolidated in 3 phases: the 1783 treaty establishing the border north by the Rio Hondo down to the Belize River, the 1786 annex to the treaty established the border from Belize River down to the Cebu, and finally the 1798 event, celebrated each year here in Belize, consolidated the territory, and in particular that brought in like I said, if it was a battle, whether it was a battle or skirmish, it doesn't matter. The fact is that it consolidated our territory to include the border marked west at Gilbert Falls and south at the Sarstoon at the mid-channel. And Belize is bordered east, as you know, by the Caribbean Sea. When I travel abroad and had the privilege to represent Belize on the world stage, making presentations, like I said, I would describe us as, my colleague Assad Schumann, I believe, coined it, as the Caribbean beat in the heart of Central America. Only English-speaking nation in the region, the rest, Central America region, the rest being colonies, former of Spain, formerly. Belize, the only one who has never experienced a dictatorship, that is true. We've always been a democracy. We had self-government in 1964, and became independent in 1981, having gone through a March 81 tumultuous heads of agreement riot. The PUPs like to spin this thing that Golson and the UDP did not want independence. They're entitled to spin. However, had the head of agreement passed, Belize would have gotten independence with conditions in favor of Guatemala. So here's hoping that the heads of agreement proposal is required reading in schools. So thank goodness, that did not pass. The celebrating of the 10th of September, Belize being described as the Caribbean beat, must always recognize the contribution of the 14 Creole men that participated in the event at St. George's Key. I recall while my colleague Ambassador Tucker was alive, he took me there to Flowers Bank, where they established a monument. In honor of those 14 men. The Mayans were here when the Bearmans arrived. The Garinaga were first documented in 1802 as arriving on the shores in Belize through Honduras. The Latino Mestizo are a given for population. For this was one time Spanish territory. And as I think it was Mr. Price who said, it will only be a matter of time, because our borders are porous. So even the ones that weren't here legally could creep right back across the border, even if you say you deport them, they could creep right back, because we had very little We don't have the resources. We haven't had the resources to police our borders strictly. And all our neighbors are like, they are homogeneous, and like us, we are a melting pot. And we ought to celebrate our diversity, you know. It's rich. In 1976 and 77, back-to-back years, I became the National Festival of Arts champion. National. Um, yeah. And it was there I met Philip Lewis, the author of the poem I Still New Belize. Google and go read. You know, and he described all the different cultures and, you know, ethnic groupings and so on, and what he envisioned to see. So I was privileged to have worked in a specialized field of diplomacy, and I interfaced with the small handful of Belizean past and present foreign service officers, you know, the rank of ambassador and below. Across, we don't work according to party. We represent the country nationally, so it's not a red or blue. You know, in diplomacy, we represent the entire country. Um, and like the British have structured it, you're a servant, so you take instruction from your government. We spent countless number of hours negotiating the Belize Guatemala issue, for it was, yeah, the budget. All these years, you know, a large chunk of it have gone to just that, you know, addressing this dispute with Guatemala. So most of what we do overseas up to this point has been about that. So that'll be a big saving when this issue is resolved at the ICJ finally. Former Minister Wilfred Arrington, um, Foreign Minister, the one who signed the special agreement of 2008, is a friend, a personal friend of mine. I was his campaign manager twice. The first of which was the 2003, where he made history, beating he ran as an independent, beating the first major candidate, his own cousin Diane Halak, who became ambassador for Taiwan. Today, I'm apolitical and irreligious. So let me close by saying that, shouting out to Belizean patriots, you know, some these go by the name Belize Territorial Volunteers, and to Will Mahan, the founder, and shout out to our Belizeans in diaspora everywhere in the world, but primarily residing in the United States. I recall when, you know, Belizean Americans vehemently protested the 2016 Guatemalan President Morales putting 3,000 military at our southern border. And I wrote the book about that. I wrote the book. Threatening to invade. Barrow was out of the country, signing a Paris Agreement in New York at the UN mission. And the Foreign Minister was abroad also. In closing, this year's September 10th through 21st celebration will make 45 years of our independence. We are finally bringing a definitive end to the Belize territorial dispute under the watch of the Belizean administration. 75% of Belize population were born, you know, after 1981 independence. They are 44 years and under. So it is high time that as a nation, going on 45 years of independence, that we all celebrate dancing to the same tune, singing from the same choir sheet, at least for that day and that holiday season from the 10th to the 21st. The 10th of September, let the musicians go to work. You know, come dance with me, my friend. This year's celebration theme actually is Look at Me. I'd rather have the song Come Dance with Me, whether it be punta, marimba, blockdown, or the haghead of the Latinos. Let it be so. Ito lang. Kaya si Saya. Ayo.